Cool.
Oh,
All right. Well, welcome to day two of orientation or night two of orientation. Um, this weekend was put together to just help new people meet other Fiveable students and kind of help you learn the lay of the land. But also, there's returning users here, so if you have any questions, just drop in the chat, and somebody will definitely help you out. But I'll let Amanda start to just give like a brief overview of Fiveable, and maybe talk a little bit about our community so far, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Amanda. I think the most important thing to know about Fiveable is that everything that we do is very community driven. So it's about creating space for students that really feels and is inclusive and inviting and encouraging. And those are really hard traits to do on an online community, right? Like, we're living in a world of a lot of online communities, a lot of social interaction online, and not a lot of it is positive. And so I think, the reason why we want to make sure that this space exists is because as you are going through school, but also dealing with a million other things, this is what we find really drives, like, moves the needle, right? Like, how do we get students taking on more challenges, succeeding in different environments, figuring out what opportunities they want to go for, within high school or after high school. A lot of that is just figuring out who you are. And so we need to be able to give you the space to do that. So for us, it's really important that we're able to build a culture around community that's not about being competitive. It's not about, I don't know, creating, a million different environments and having different like roles within that. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just about like finding ways to lift each other up. Like that's kind of at the core of it, is like, if you know how to do something and you can help someone else with what they're working on, then you're both better off for that. And so I think it's really important to think about, when you think about community, and you all have different experiences in community spaces, whether they're online or in person. But I think what we're building has the potential to just be like truly special with students and for students and by students, and teachers are part of this, but it's never gonna be the thing we imagine unless it comes like from within, right? Like, as the admins of this space, like, I feel like our role is to create the space for you. We want to make sure you have the platform, you have the structures, you have everything you need, but then we're going to look to every single community member to lead where they are, right? To bring the best of them to like each community that they're in, to make other people better for just being around them. And I think when we all think of community this way, then it becomes a lot easier to think about like, how do we actually get a positive space? So that's like really high level of what we think about when we think about community. And then, it's important that we really map that out. We model that for you. I'll kick it back over to Tom to continue on.
So yeah, basically what a community is just, thanks LG for a similar definition. A group of people with shared interests, goals, intentions, and identities. And at the root of that is, you are part of a community, right? That's pretty much what it is. So if it feels abstract, that's like pretty much, it's just a group of people getting together. Like Amanda said, we focus on inclusion, not exclusion. Exclusion of any of the things Amanda said, by hierarchy or role or title or any of those things. Here's some of the communities in our Slack, right? This college stuff, affirmation chain, mental health, Latinx, LGBTQ, social justice. Those are all examples of communities, and some of you have been instrumental in helping grow those. But we also have to remember that nobody really like owns a community. It's like a shared space, right? So that's the kind of mindset that we have to have when we approach this. Otherwise, it does result in that kind of like weird hierarchy, whether we intend to or not. You can have roles or duties that ways that you want to contribute, but that doesn't necessarily grant you like extra powers over somebody else. But these are all some of the great channels that were recommended to include on here. So definitely check them out. Affirmation chain, if you need just like a really awesome like positive boost in life, definitely check that out. think one picture got left out, but oh man, a picture of you guys got left out. Let's see if I can add it in here. No, glad. But yeah, that's this. I'll let some of the students speak who have been with us for a little bit and have been in the Slack channels, kind of bopping around. With us, we have Harrison, Jada, Jessica, Ellie, and Sarah. So I'll let you guys have a minute or so each to kind of like talk about community in your eyes. Like, how's it helped you? Like, what have you done in these different communities, and all that. Sarah, I'll just call you so you don't get confused, and I'll just call you by how I see you. So Sarah, just tell us about what communities that you were in that you really liked, and what you gained from it, and what you hope to help build in the future.
Yeah, so I've been part of a lot of channels, but some of my favorites were mental health and affirmation chain, just because like there's so much positivity, and also what like constantly amazes me is the genuineness of people, and like just how open people are to helping each other out and support and advice. And it's just a really great culture in those channels, and in really all of the channels there's just positivity, and it's the kind of environment that everyone needs to have. Like everyone needs to have that sort of support, and it's really easy to find that in many of the channels here. And then also there's like the more specific interest channels, such as musicians. Like I'm a musician and I'm super into band and music and everything, and just chatting about like what we're interested in and finding other people with the same interests as you. It's just a really great community of people there that you can chat with, and I've made a lot of friends in those channels.
Mm-hmm. Glad to have you with us, Sarah. Ellie?
One of my favorite, channels out of this is the LGBTQ plus channel. That channel is very inclusive. And we do, it's a very safe space. And so for someone who, part of that community, it's nice to know teenagers your age or know people your age who go through the same struggles, who can understand where you're coming from. And that's definitely a thing. One of my favorite channels was actually the Fiveable product channel. And so where we did the design forums and everything, which was super fun because you get to see Fiveable as a whole and you get to have your input. You get to kind of see what a lot of people don't. And that's kind of the behind the scenes work, which is super interesting. And we can't thank you enough, Ton and Aaron and the dev team, for all that you guys do. But like, other than that, I have my like, so I have the marketing channel. I have, these small channels here and there. I'm not much in the Slack, but it's definitely fun to see, and definitely, rewarding to see a lot of other students being positive and collaborating in discussion, which really makes my day, because essentially that's what community is, and Fiveable does an amazing job at it.
Thanks for stopping by, Ellie. Jessica?
Hi. So a lot of the like channels and like communities that I'm in, like we've talked about a lot already. I really love the affirmation chain channel. Again, like the LGBTQIA channel is really awesome. I've also enjoyed having conversations with people in like the politics channel, and I think that anything that comes up tends to be like super genuine, and like people never really just like are talking like without any reason. And everyone's also, like we've mentioned before, everyone's super supportive and just kind of there to like hype you up. And yeah, it's really awesome. I love the affirmation chain channel especially because I know there's been like a couple of like little initiatives where like people would like share pictures and like share compliments or give like anonymous compliments to one another, and it's just been like super fun. It's been one of like the least stressful environments that I've been in, and definitely something I've been super glad to take part in over the summer. And also the Fiveable product channel has been really awesome because I loved getting to see, like Ali said again, the kind of like behind the scenes and what actually goes into the design of the website. And I think that's super awesome that like student inputs actually being like taken into consideration, and that we're probably gonna be able to go on the website and see like, oh, I remember when we talked about that. And I think that that's just super awesome, and I really can't wait um to see it all like pan out.
Yeah, I mean, design is one just one part of that, right? You just see what the dev team does, you see what Amanda does on a daily basis. Like they're all like very expensive processes, and our team is just super great. But I'm obviously biased. Jada, I'm gonna flip this a little bit. So I guess I want to get your opinion. There's obviously like all the great things that we have to say about community, but what happens when there's people bump heads? Like what do you think? What do you think are some ways that we can kind of handle those situations to ensure that we're committed to maintaining like a positive kind of environment for everybody?
So I think in those situations, you kind of have to be able like open-minded and like listen to other people, what other people have to say. You kind of have to meet in the middle sometimes if you can't find like a consensus, and you have to like just like you can't be too like argumentative. You have to like try to stay calm and just see what the other person has to say, and then kind of find a way to communicate with them to find like a consensus or meet in the middle sort of. So I think that's what you have to do. And then of course, if it's a much bigger problem, we can always talk to like the admins or try to get the admins involved. But usually we'll have to try to like solve the problem on our own sort of, and just try to like, I think communication is a really helpful thing in those situations, and just like, and getting people's like perspectives on it. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess what was the community that you were in that you really enjoyed?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was in a couple communities that were every single community and channel I was in. It was just incredible. It was awesome just seeing like genuine people, like Sarah said, that just build you up, and like it was just a great place to show who you were sort of, and not being afraid to like have your opinions on things. So I think I was on the Avatar: The Last Airbender channel, and then like Hamilton channel, and it was really fun. Just like share from some fun like topics. Like I shared like a picture of Lin-Manuel Miranda or something, and like so that was fun and stuff. And then like from the Avatar channel, I was able to join like this podcast where you talk about the characters, and it was just incredible to see all the different perspectives people had. And it kind of like opened my eyes to like a whole new world, and like because I've never really talked to people I've never met in real life before, and it was just amazing seeing all these different perspectives that I haven't been exposed to in the past. And then like of course mental health channel, it was great doing those challenges, and affirmation chain, of course, it's just such a positive channel. And then yeah, and then also STEM bound advice and like medical channels, it kind of got me branched out into like some opportunities I wanted to go into. Like I did this medical program, shout out to Renuka, and it was a lot of fun. It was like a program, and it was like you learned so much, got to talk to medical professionals, and it's awesome.
Oh, hey, and Renuka's here, so
Yeah.
she says she loves you. All right, real quick, Jada, are you an airbender, waterbender, earthbender, or firebender?
Ooh, yeah. I think I would be an earthbender. I think I'd be an earthbender. Like I don't know why. I think I like being outside, I guess, and like I like dirt sometimes. So yeah, I think I'd be an earthbender. So
All right, in the chat, what kind of bender would you be? I'm gonna move on to Harrison. Harrison, what are your general thoughts on community? Whatever perspective you want to take.
Okay, so mine's gonna be a little different, but at first, I kind of hated the community a little bit, gonna be honest right here. But that was just because like when I started, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go join every channel, every community, and I'm gonna be involved. And then like that was not a good idea, obviously. So then I kind of like, okay, I really actually don't care about cars. I don't care about Avatar: The Last Airbender that much. I don't care about all these different things. I was like, okay, now that I've consolidated, this is actually a lot better. So I think everybody is a little upset at that in the chat. So sorry, we gotta have different opinions sometimes. And I mean, after you get used to it for a while, like it's really cool. You know how sometimes you have like a culture shock when you do something different, something you've never done before? That's kind of this community. Like, it's something completely different. There's nothing to even compare it to. Like, it's like the AP student subreddit, but like 17,000 times better. I think I did the math right there. And once you're able to like really immerse yourself in the community, it's really awesome.
Quick question. What do you think makes it that much better than the AP student subreddit?
A few things. One, people are actually active. Two, there's a lot more students on it who are actually genuine and want to be there and do something, because on the community, there aren't as many students really as there are on different AP subreddits. Like, there are only 1,000+ people in there in the Slack right now. But really, the people who are all there really want to be there, and they always want to participate in discussion and like join a bunch of discussions and things beyond AP, and that's just what makes it so much better.
Mhm.
Yeah, you gotta find your people. I don't know anything about Airbender either. I'm with you.
Aaron, what's your favorite community that you've seen? I know you've been bopping around sometimes too.
So it's funny. I feel like Affirmation Chain is like my favorite, but I'm not like super active. It's just like sometimes like I'm more of like a lurker. Like when I need like a mood bump, I like come in there and I just look at like the activity, and everything in there is just so overwhelmingly positive. It just like immediately makes my day, and that's like the kind of vibe I need all the time.
Mhm.
And actually, like most of the other channels are like that, but like I think the sole purpose of Affirmation Chain is to do that, and so that's why that one stands out to me. And so I really like that channel. That's my favorite. What about you, Tan? I'm curious.
Probably the Harry Styles channel. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about Harry Styles. I mean, just all the. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because I'm like in so many. The one I'm mostly like familiar with, obviously, is Fiveable product, but mental health and LGBTQ are some of my favorites. It's just as a queer person, it's awesome to see other queer students kind of like leading the charge and helping out other students with their struggles, and that's kind of why I started, right? It's like to be there to support each other. So, you know, Ellie was there when it was first created too. At least it was first created in our Slack, then we created the founding member Slack. So that was awesome. How about you, LG, Amanda?
Well, I think I can speak for both of us. Just kidding. Amanda's face. No, I like the Survivor channel. It's just a few of us.
Those are my people, though.
Right, for sure. But you know, something like that where you can just shoot the. You can just talk where you can just like join a little bit and have like, you know, a little bit of a, you know, opinion war or something where it's not trying to become your whole life necessarily. It can be as little or as much as you make of it. And like, you know, even though we have some ideas of like what Fiveable wants community to be, is like we want you to have that autonomy, you know, to build things. I also really like the Icebreakers channel. We actually like made a team spinoff just because it was so fun. That one's really great, and like I like seeing what's happening in politics, and a lot of the channels that people have already mentioned that have just like, you know, really thriving communities where we get like diverse opinions but still have like really healthy conversations and community with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that. And like a similar experience to Harrison, I was in way too many channels and it was overwhelming. And so there's been some channels like even like politics that I love politics and love talking about it, but I like had to back out a little bit from politics because I was getting a little bit stressed out. So I think what's good about the community space is that there's so many different channels that you can decide where you want to be, you know. And so I spent the most time in the Amanda fan club and Amanda questions. So basically Amanda questions is when I haven't posted in a few weeks, but what will happen with me is that I'm constantly thinking about like really big things, right? Like, what's the purpose of school? Like really big questions that don't really have an answer, but get you to start thinking about like, what is the purpose of school? Because like a lot of stuff that we do now doesn't seem to fit the actual purpose of it. And so I'm, you know, as we've just built Fiveable, like we're trying to be really innovative in a lot of different ways. And so the questions channel is my like, you know, 1 a.m. stream of conscious is essentially what it is. And I have a lot of fun with it there. So it's sort of like my version of the product channel where I'm just like thinking out loud.
So glad she created that channel because that person used to be me because we lived together for 2 years.
I'd be like, Ton, what do you think about this like huge thing? And he's like, I don't know, Amanda, I'm gonna need to like take some time and think about it. But you guys just jump on all on the questions and like, you know, put out some actual thoughts, and it's like great. I love it. And sometimes my ideas are complete trash. So, you know, that's what makes it great is that you have to just be able, you have to find a community that you can just like throw out whatever you're thinking, whatever thoughts you have, whatever ideas you have about the world. And even if you put it out there and as soon as you even read it out loud, you're like, oh yeah, that probably wasn't a great idea. Then like, that's okay. You know, then like, at least your people are like, they let you go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know, we talk about when we talk about community, it's always about all the good times, right? And then there's all those things that happen in between, all the different feelings and things that get caught up. You know, sometimes we get caught up in the moment, but there's a strong need to kind of work through that together because otherwise you can see that things will fall apart if you kind of, you know, if you let things fester or you just ignore it or you don't include people in things. So keeping your community healthy and happy is kind of like, you know, once we build it, this is kind of the next step, right? It's like you engage whoever's in your community, you share things together, but arguments will probably come up, discussions will come up, intense discussions will come up, but those are all things that can be worked with, and you just got to power through it. Any other notes about community health? LG, I know you have like a really awesome metaphor on community gardens.
Sorry, I just got into a Survivor sidebar. But, you know, absolutely, like, you know, think about community gardens and everybody can have their separate plots. You can do things together. You can choose like what you're doing with it, what you're investing in it. Are you doing, you know, flowers for pollinators? Are you actually trying to farm some food and like build self-sufficiency? Like there's just, it's almost too open. And I feel like some people struggle with that. They're like, okay, there's an obvious path to success that Fiveable has set in the past. That's like, you know, do this, this, and this, and you can achieve this and this. And like, that's totally different than letting you connect to one another and find out what you share in terms of, you know, goals, intentions, identities, interests, you know, and building towards that. That could be, you know, connecting in the real world once we can do that again. That could be building online events. That could be just having a place where someone who's having the worst possible day can come. And it's only for that. It's only for mutual support. So, you know, don't get too caught up in definitions and roles because like you can grow like whatever it is that you identify that is needed. Last summer, I did some volunteering with a youth tech camp that they were writing and building video games. And we had a lot of culture sharing between like intergenerational stuff. And, you know, something that I found out was that like high school students, like by and large, are a lot more isolated and less connected. Like there's hardly anyone in my life I didn't meet on the internet, and like they just didn't have that same shared experience. And that might be different for the people on this call because y'all are obviously some kind of early adopters. But you know, what do you want to do to drive, you know, youth culture and like, you know, contribute or like find corners and niches? Like there's really so much. I can't, you know, underscore enough like that, you know, the next steps and what happens with community is really up to you, as long as we can find a way, like, keep your community healthy and happy. Like, there's really hard things sometimes. That's not what we mean by happy. But what do we do to build communities that uplift one another, nurture one another, and like find the right ways to make that happen? That's all.
Ditto. Snaps. I can't snap my fingers, so snaps.
And one other thing to mention too, I think, you know, around the courses, like you in your course will have your course community, right? Those are the people you're taking this AP blank class with. But what is cool is that there's inside the Slack channel, there are students from the other AP subjects that you're not in a course with. There's students that were part of a summer program, there's interns, there's us, there's students that are not part of any of those things, that have just joined the community space as another first wave. And so the Slack channel is meant to be, you know, the first step for us in building up a much larger community. And Tom will go into what we've been working on. This is sort of your like sneak peek into the next phases of things. But just to keep in mind that like community is very intertwined with the courses, with all the other content that we do, with just like who we are, because we want you as AP students to have support in AP, but we also know that you are so much more than just like an AP class, right? And when you think about the best classes you've ever had, a lot of times it's about the culture of that class and not like the grade you got or the specific assignments you did. Like none of those things tend to matter in the end. What matters is the connections that you make with people. And so that's why the community space is so holistic, and why we'll continue to really like, you know, strive for that, to make it a place where you can connect on a lot of different topics. And even though we might be focused on education, we also know that you are just so much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to add there, Aaron? Or anybody else on the panel?
LG and Amanda said it all.
Right. All the words are said.
I'll send it too.
Aaron's like, you can't make me follow Amanda. What the heck?
Yeah, honestly.
I'm like a fortune cookie.
I'm the fortune cookie.
I do really want to second what Harrison and Amanda said about not joining too many. And like, that's actually like a bigger philosophy of mine on life as a whole, is that you can make such a bigger impact and you'll get so much more out of things if you really like know that you know, like on the bigger scale, knowing that you really gave something your all and really like we're really intentional about it rather than spreading yourself thin. And especially like I was a former AP student myself, and like a lot of us like love being active in things, and like sometimes it's like you're active in too many things and it's hard to admit that, and it's okay to like narrow it down sometimes, you know, take things slower, like find a couple communities and like figure out if you really like them or not before you like join a million at once maybe. So I don't know, just being really intentional with what you do. And then that also goes to like the way you interact with people, like be really intentional there too. Like don't say things without thinking, because that's, you know, that's kind of reckless, but yeah, just be intentional and have a good time. Yeah.
Just really quick off of that, I think that in the last, and trust me, when I was in high school, I fell for this too, but there's this feeling that like, in order to get into college, you have to do as many things as possible. You have to like stack your resume with as many, just like, I was part of this club. I got like leadership roles on clubs that I never even cared about, just because I wanted to say I was secretary of whatever. Right. And like, we've all been there. I know we've all been there. There's a lot of type A people in this Zoom call. And so, but the thing that I've actually heard from admissions people is that they are far more impressed by students who do more impact on like one specific thing, right? Like if you like get really, really into one club, one job, one sport, one hobby, like whatever it is, and you, instead of just trying to spread yourself thin, you give everything you have to that one thing, you're likely to make a much bigger impact, to have a much better story to tell. Your essay will be better. You will actually appear far more well-rounded than if you apply with like 20 different clubs. Because what the admissions people will say to that is like, there's no way that they actually did that many clubs, that like we don't even know what they care about, you know. And like you like, if you can shine through one thing, you're just like, you will be better off anyways. I know that college is a goal for you, and so really think about that. You know, like you're at the time now where you don't have to know what you want to do forever, but if you pick something and you just like give your whole self to that, you're going to be much better off in the next several years as you continue on. So.
No, I was gonna say, but yeah.
It's tough, but you know, you don't need to be a 4-sport athlete anymore, you know, like this is, you know, you can just pick one and you're all right.
There's a good question that came in through Slack, but so in this new Fiveable community that that's in Slack right now, everybody, there is no like founding members. This is just everybody in the Fiveable community, right? There's no roles, there's no projects, there's none of that. But you know, it's about interacting with one another and building up those communities and interest channels that you really want to see on the Fiveable platform. Let's see. So every time you talk to somebody, like if you don't know them and they're new, like invite them in rather than you know, offer yourself as a resource and help point out like where they can go if they need help. But yeah, let's see. Oh, this thing is freaking out. Cool. So
yeah, so just to like bridge between Slack and the new stuff, we've been working on building a community space inside of like the Fiveable app for the whole summer. And even before then, just like kind of starting the seeds of it. And so that was a really big part of the summer. Slack, if you want to think of it as like, Slack is kind of the alpha space. We'll be in the Slack space will continue, but at some point we will launch our new version of it. That will be then in beta. We'll be able to kind of shift things over. So everyone that's in Slack will retain access to it, but the main Fiveable community space is what we're really excited about, because you know Slack is limiting, like it's just chats, and so if you look away for a second, then you miss 70 things, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And so there's a lot about Slack that wasn't built for what we're using it for, and so we're kind of making it work so that we can learn from you what kinds of communities you want to create and what kinds of issues come up and good things that we can do to help shape the culture. But our real goal is about building our own space that's sort of like our own version of Reddit, right? Where we can meet the needs of students in a completely unique way.
Mm-hmm. Ellie, did you have something to add? It might be off topic now, but go ahead.
Just real quick, just kind of branching off what Amanda said about college and everything. As a senior, high school's been a lot, and taking a lot of AP classes has not helped. And I think the main point about community that is just so phenomenal is that you find your own people and you find people who relate to you, but also that you find people that you can give advice to. Like if I had someone give me advice 3 years ago about what college would look like, and like, you don't need to take 20 something APs in order to get in, or you don't have to go to an Ivy League, or, you know, all these, you know, predisposed assumptions about college, I would have definitely like wanted that. And especially because a lot of time, high school is a very lonely journey. That's really sad to say, but it's very individual. You may have friends and everything, but at the end of the day, your growth is your growth. And, you know, put yourself first in the sense of mental health and, you know, strength. Because when you do a lot in high school, or when you are trying to do everything in a community, it takes a lot on yourself. And so just keep in mind of who you are and like what your limits are. And for any underclassmen that are going into junior year, or who are, you know, are seniors right now, just know yourself first. I feel like a lot of people forget that high school is all about getting to know who you are, be comfortable in your skin, and, you know, just live your life. Because I promise you, at the end of the 4 years, you'll look back and be like, that was really pointless. So.
Yeah.
Ellie.
All right, Tanya, you want to unveil what we've been working on? What you've been working on?
So I'll start off with groups. So group basically why we're using Slack is it replicates a lot of the same features that we have. And this is still being touched up, but we're basically I didn't think we were going to do before, but now we're basically rebuilding Slack right, into our platform. So, but the thing about having it on another platform is that it's connected to all the resources that we have, to all the different Fiveable users that are there, to all the communities that we'll be creating or have already created with all the AP subjects. So this is kind of where you can form your own groups with whoever, whether it's your class or just a group of people that you met on Fiveable, and you can share resources, live chat, all that stuff. Ideally, in the future, we didn't have time for this around this time, but potential things that I want to look more into are things like collaborative viewing parties. Can you watch a stream together? Collaborative trivia games. Can you battle the people in your group in trivia? Those are potential add-ons that could come later, depending on what we want. So. But yeah, as you can see, Harrison and Ellie and are heavily featured in these designs just because they're the first people that come to mind when I'm looking for a student picture or something. So that's the groups. Just an update on communities. So we're still playing around with this too, but browsing all the different communities, the ones that you're in, seeing recommended or trending ones, recent activity. This can be a list or a card style, but this will show you all the activity in all the communities that you're in. But again, we're still kind of working on this concept. So, but this is where you would go to kind of find what you would want, and you can see which of your friends are in different ones and all that stuff. So this is like Amanda said, referred to a community as somewhat like a subreddit, right? This is kind of reflects that. You can have an activity feed in that community. So this would identify as a community up here. You can have your activity feed, different kinds of posts, playlists, all that stuff. I think some things got. But yeah, you can see all the resources in there, topics, group recommended groups and creators. I think I only included those 3 screens. There's a couple other things that we're still working on that we haven't finalized. Our user profiles, which I want to touch on real quick. User profiles, right? You'll be able to follow creators that you really like on our platform. You'll be able to, the Ellie fan club is lit. That's why there's 5 of them. You'll be able to follow each other, just like on Twitter or Instagram. That is going to be, that's one of my favorite features, is being able to have your own profile. You can, it won't be showing off your achievements, but it'll show off things that you did or things that you want other people to know about, like the courses that you're in, right? Or anything that's Fiveable related. And some fields for fun information. When does this launch? We'll be launching it for beta this fall. And the beta will be open until we kind of hash everything out, right? There will be a lot of testing that we have to do. Does this design actually work, or what will we have to move around to make it work and to launch it to the general public? What kind of structures will we need to make sure that we can sustain communities and make sure that all the communities that are being created aren't just spam? So there's a lot of things that we'll have to figure out during beta, but we're kind of moving towards that. So I'm pretty excited about where we are. We do have some prototypes ready, but those had to be updated now because of the edits in the last few days. So yeah.
You'll see dark mode when it's ready. But if you think about the timeline, in about 3-ish weeks, we'll be ready for testing. And so if you're in the Slack channel, you'll be able to be a part of the early testing of things. And then as we, first get in there and bop around, it's just going to be trying to break it, trying to find better things to do. This is what the ground level looks like, is, you kind of make your best version of it. You throw it out there. And then as soon as you do, you're like, oh, we should totally do it this way or fix this other thing. And that's just like inevitable. And so then we're going to spend a couple more weeks like in beta, just really making sure that it's something that you want to use, that you feel like is essential to, a resource for you. And once we feel like we have that, then we launch it out. Then we bring in more students, and we then the party really begins. So this fall is about like getting the space ready to throw a party in the spring. That's kind of how I see it.
We'll have a pre-party in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yeah, designing and building a whole like new platform. It's crazy because we did it in not even the whole summer. Well, I guess most of the summer, but that could be something that usually takes like a year or more. So we worked our butts off. Sorry, I caught myself. The dev team definitely worked hard, and there's been lots of back and forth. And yeah, we will have dark mode, but we didn't want to design dark mode because we found that it was slowing us down if we were creating everything and then creating the dark mode version. But we weren't finalized on the actual version. So we'll do dark mode after, and it actually looks pretty slick. I'll probably use it myself, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much, there's definitely more screens, but I'll leave it there for now. I might have another impromptu design form just because there's some things that we have to figure out coming up, but it's not required or anything. And then any other thoughts on this part? Aaron, if you want to talk a little bit about kind of like the process of just making sure that we can get this to where we want it to be.
Yeah, sure. So we spent like a lot of the summer working on a lot of changes that you probably wouldn't even notice on the site. And then in the last like month, we've really been focusing on building out this new platform. So the first step in building out this new platform, like believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff under the hood that needs to be different now. The whole way that we're structuring all the data that shows up on every page, like literally requires us to like build out like a new database. And like, it's crazy. Like you being on the dev team, like these are things that you might not ever, I mean, if you're taking comp sci, maybe you'll realize like how much we like don't realize what's going on under the hood and things. And so it's like, I'm just super grateful that we have a design team like we do. Thank you. Shout out to Tan and shout out to Harry and Shaniqua also. Like it makes our lives so much easier when we don't have to be thinking about what everything should look like while we're trying to figure out how it should be built, because it speeds it up to know how it should be built. And I'm not really sure what to talk about in terms of our process because a lot of it's like really nitty gritty down like details. And so like if anyone has questions about it, like I think it might be easier to just answer questions about it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
For sure. Yeah, we appreciate you guys working on it. And obviously like as designers, we're constantly refining and updating and all that stuff. So thanks for hanging in there and powering through all of our needs.
Of course.
Anybody on the panel have anything else to add about the new platform? Most of the students up here have been to the design forums, have been giving us, hey, most of you have been to the design forums and all that stuff. So
I'm really excited about the events calendars. Not one of the views that we showed today, but like online events are our lives. We don't expect everyone to be, just going to Fiveable events or, communities to be making Fiveable events. I'm just saying it could happen, but also like posting other events that you're interested in or contributing to and having like a calendar space that is shared, and that can be like a really unique way to like coordinate your interests or your goals.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we do have I didn't want to show the event space just because it might not be part of our first iteration, just because there's the main things that we want to get out first, but just so everybody knows, we're going to roll this out with the major features, and then there's things that we're going to add on as we go, right? Once we finesse the core product. But yeah, like LG said, events is one of them, community events. So yeah. So this last exercise, I just want to, we have a couple minutes left. If you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A and I'll check or one of us will check. I think I want to do a quick exercise on community. Like, we have some people here. What does, basically, what rules can we put in place to help people, help encourage people to get involved, to promote constructive discussions? Like, what kind of community guidelines can we create or think about right now that we can commit to and then help reinforce that through Slack and then through our new platform? So if you have ideas on the panel, feel free to just talk, and then feel free to drop ideas in the chat. Like, what kind of rules and guidelines would you expect or want to set for each other?
Possibly not having repeat channels, because there's a couple channels that overlap and like repeat each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the classes, they have like 2023 sophomores and like softs, and they all overlap, so it's kind of hard to keep up with it.
Yeah. Repeating some more similar channels. Participation in challenges. Diane, are you referring to just challenges that communities put on themselves, or? Anybody on the panel have any other ideas? Harrison?
I mean, I think this is a longer conversation. I think it's just about creating the right culture within each channel that we'll have to, build without creating a feeling of things being policed. Like, we don't want that. We just want to have the right culture that's there and norms within each space, and then overall. Yeah.
With this exercise, I just mean to think of things like, being mindful, being, respectful, being resourceful, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I would say.
I think the purpose of this is to show that this isn't our community, this is your community, this is everybody's community. We don't own this. We're just the people who set it up for you to use it. And right now, we really just want to hear what you guys have and what you guys want to do to make your community a better place and set these really cool norms that you guys are going to follow, but no cops around enforcing them or anything. We just really want to see what you guys want right now.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Jada?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with what Harrison was saying. Just kind of be yourself, but sort of try to learn from others if to improve yourself as well, and just try to grow yourself and your what's the word? Your exposures kind of, and then don't be afraid to join a channel or say something. Just go for it and see how others react and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Having monthly Zoom meetups. Parnika, we did create the welcoming committee, and some of those people are here, so that is something that you would opt into. But yeah, basically the welcoming committee basically will be inviting new users in, right? There's some new people here, but those who opt into that program will be paired up with somebody to kind of show them how we do things around here and just get them acquainted with everyone and make them feel welcome. Ellie, were you trying to say something?
Just a community is never going to be perfect. So expect the unexpected, if that makes sense. If there are disagreements, if it's between two people, solve them privately. I think being mindful of who's in that channel and the purpose of that channel, or in this case, community, is very, very important. You don't want to just be spamming an argument that is getting nowhere. And that's the thing. You can have arguments, you can have debates, but they have to get to somewhere. You can't just keep going back and forth saying, I'm right, I'm right. And I think Jada made a really good point about learning each other's perspectives. I think the whole point about a community is making sure that you are growing and just making sure that you get to know more about the people around you, but also life in general. And so being mindful and being considerate, but also looking for growth. I think if you have the growth mindset, then you're going to be able to grow and you'll be able to contribute more in the community.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Simran said it. We should make sure that there's no like executive team or leadership. Yeah. We just had this discussion in the Slack today, which I'll run by you guys probably tomorrow to everybody. But having leadership in Slack feels a little bit weird because it feels like it's an unneeded hierarchy. Like, since the channels are all open, there shouldn't really be anybody officially in charge of them. Any other thoughts from our team?
I like what some people mentioned about growing pains, right? Like the Fiveable team, like we grow really fast and we change fast, and like we'll try new things. If it doesn't work, we pull it back. Like being adaptable and being flexible and like baking that into the process, because like if we're having, growing pains in a community, just adding like a wave of new people, what happens when we're trying to democratize learning and like make AP accessible to like 100 times as many students, 1,000 times as many students? Like the spaces that we're building like aren't going to be like giant masses, but it's always going to be growing and changing. And if you don't have that like change mindset to begin with, if you're like just static and like set in like, thinking something's a certain way, it's going to be really hard to, participate meaningfully in something that is changing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody said, can you create a channel? We've gotten some questions about using Slack, so I'm just gonna run through it in 30 seconds. So let's see how well I can do this. Can you guys see my Slack screen? Cool. So basically, this is Slack in dark mode. You have your channels over here, your threads that you're on, that you're following, your direct messages, your drafts, things that you're mentioned in. You can also create sections. So obviously there's like all these different channels, right? And if you want a way to organize them, just hover over this where it says section options, create a section to kind of help you organize the things that you want. There's a lot of channels. So let's see, if you click more, there's like the channel browser. You can kind of go through these. You can filter or sort. And you can type in any words that will help you search for what you want. And to create a channel, if you're over here, just click this plus button, create a channel. When you're creating a channel, just try to be mindful that if you've searched it and it does not exist at all, like in any form, that's when you would create a channel. If it doesn't already exist, definitely create it. Otherwise, look for like similar ones. And then, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If you've ever used any like chat platform like Discord, your DMs will be here, any apps. Yeah, and then just go to any channel and just talk with people, start up a conversation, meet people that you haven't talked to before ever. And yeah, any Slack tips? Or any final thoughts?
Download the mobile app, makes it easier to participate, but like turn off notifications at a certain point. Like you can keep it on. Like for me, I actually just turned off notifications, so I like have to go into the Slack app to check. But you can make it what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, turning off notifications is definitely necessary. But yeah, so we're here to like build a community, and we're here to build community into everything that we do. If you're watching a video, sometimes it's easier to have other people watching the video along with you, or answering questions that you might have on that video. Making sure that in study guides you can see what sections of it are popular. That's hopefully a potential feature down the road. Making sure that there's some kind of social component that you could do attached to a lot more features, rather than right now it's very like transactional, right? You read a study guide or you watch a video and then you leave the site. Point of community that we're trying to build is that you know, it's a community of that's productive and empowering and all that. So also, yeah, shift exit, escapism, exit. Any final thoughts from the peanut gallery on community or just anything in general?
I think we covered it. It's pretty good for a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more about like courses specifically, so you know more clearly what to expect this week and the rest of the semester. And yeah, thanks y'all. Thanks for being flexible and excited with us.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Thank you to the panel and everybody in the chat.
Bye.
Bye, guys and girls and people and everyone, aliens, vegetables.